Hello, I'm Karina Garcia and I work on RANE's product development team. We'll take some time today to provide an overview of our geopolitical and threat intelligence solutions, both of which are found here at enterprise.ranenetwork.com. First of all, I encourage everybody who's new to the platform or also users that have been around a while but still want to learn how to optimize how they can explore their interests to create interest groups and notifications. Interest groups can be for any geographic, theme, or topics of interest, whether they are the areas of operations, supply chain, travel, or emerging markets that your firm may be assessing, and you can create any number of them. For themes and topics, if you have access to both the geopolitical and threat intelligence solutions, you'll see them here. The themes, geopolitical topics are hot topics that we're focusing on in particular, along with the security topics. And something to note for the security topics, if you click on any one of these, there's an additional level of a taxonomy that's available. What our subtopics are incident types, so you can really hone in on particular issues. Once you've created those interest groups, you can very easily create a notification by plugging that interest group into the preferences. It'll automatically fill out the rest. Otherwise, you can create, again, any number of notifications so that you can be updated if the content that matches your preferences goes out, whether it's the themes or topics, regions, countries, or content types. Something to note that if you select a wide range of themes and topics and select all content types, you will be getting the tactical threat monitoring incidents. And that can be a great number if you're selecting to get those as they occur. So if you have a wide variety of geographic areas and themes and topics selected, I recommend you refine that. Focus in on the analysis, for example, and be more particular about the threat monitoring incidents specific to a few set of countries. And you can create a number of those to monitor what's going out that matches your preferences. Once you've also created location groups and a location radius on the threat monitoring map and geofences, which we'll look at momentarily, you can select specific ones to get updates of anything that matches those geographic areas as well. Going back to the home page, and now that we've also created interest groups, we'll see how we can customize this experience even further. We're greeted with a visual introduction to everything that we at RANE have published, our proprietary content, in this case over the last week. But specific to how often you visit or the particular research you may be doing at hand that day, you can narrow that down to the last day. You can also do custom date ranges. You can filter by geopolitical intelligence versus threat intelligence, and you'll see that the dots on the map adjust accordingly. And or you can do that even further if you just want to see something that matches a specific selection of interests. The dots will adjust as well. The dots in this case are largely in the center of countries to represent what we have written within the particular time frame that matches the content type and your interests. And it's intended to be a pathway to explore further. If I click on China as an example, you'll see a preview of our coverage, starting with our country ratings, our analysis, and part of the threat monitoring experience is an introduction into trending data, the number of incidents. You can further explore by this navigation menu, clicking on any region, theme, geopolitical intelligence topics, or threat intelligence topics, and you'll see that the content panel adjusts as well. Regardless of how we organize that content, though, there is certainly a use case to just see what we at RANE have written most recently. The latest analysis will be our proprietary analytical content. You can filter by that, which is focused more so on geopolitics versus threat intelligence. And similar to the options when creating interest groups, you can plug in any one of those here or select the specific themes, topics, regions, countries, or content types to help you shortcut to your interests. On the right, for access to the threat intelligence, is the latest threat monitoring incidents, a feed of which chronological based on most recently reported. Otherwise, if we scroll down, you will have a shortcut to our most recent forecasts. as they are the pillar, the building block of all of that analytical coverage. We want to create an easy pathway there. And there are other features like the polls where we pose questions periodically so you can see how your peers that do have access to the geopolitical and threat intelligence solutions are thinking about those issues across geopolitics and safety and security. Now, if we go back to the map, if we click on China as an example, if we go to the content panel, clicking at the top of the content panel, or if we scroll down, see more, we can get to that country page. And the same would be for regions, themes, and topics. Note, you can also do that from the navigation menu as well, clicking on regions and countries and themes and topics. We'll stick with the content panel on the home page as we're here now. When on a country page, all will follow a similar structure, starting with the country risk indicators. The country risk outlook, being made of the geopolitical outlook and the security outlook, are produced by our own RANE internal analysts. They are a qualitative, subjective view of country risk, not only reflecting risk at the moment in time, but also how we see that risk evolving over the next 12-month period. For the geopolitical outlook, we provide an overview of the overall geopolitical risks, political, economic, and security risk factors. You can click on these tooltips. They'll give you more view of how we're assessing risk and defining any one of those particular risk categories. Also, if any one of them changes based on our last update, you'll see that indicator. You can also click here to see what it was prior for that additional context. There's an executive summary of how we are assessing risk. You can click more. You can also see when we've updated this, and you can export this as you are doing a country risk assessment, assessing risk in a new market. You want to copy and paste this into your own work product. We have the tool to enable you to do that. And you'll find the same structure on the security outlook. The scope of that security outlook and also the filters that you'll see on all pages that you can filter the content by are the same here. Overall security risk, crime, cyber and information threats, environmental health and infrastructure hazards, organizational threats, political instability and social unrest, and war, insurgency, and terrorism. Similar to the geopolitical tab, you have the ratings. You see if anything has changed recently. But what's new is the number of incidents, which you can filter based on the time frame to see more tactical incidents that align with these particular categories. There will also be the executive summary view specific to the nuanced security risk in country. Here, stressing risk in particular to personnel, assets, and overall business continuity. Now shifting to the Global Composite Risk Index, whereas the country risk outlook is produced internally, it's an analytical view. The Global Composite Risk Index is an index of an indices, if you will. It pulls from a variety of different external sources. These are updated every once a year or sometimes twice a year. And it also represents a wide variety of categories that make up enterprise risk. We provide the overall risk score, and there is a particular breakdown of very specific categories. For each, as any one of those external sources updates, we are providing an aggregate, we are averaging that out, and so we'll update the rank and the score. And as necessary, that will roll up to the overall risk score for the country as well. So the intent of these pages is to start with our view of risk to help you shape your understanding of the risk profile in these countries. We also shine a light on particular content types, features that are exclusive to the enterprise level package, the key forecast questions as an example. We'll spend more time on that momentarily. But below, you'll see, similar to the homepage, similar structure with the latest analysis. In this case, we're on the China page, so everything will have been tagged with that country, but you can further filter by just content that's rooted in geopolitics versus threat intelligence or both, and also filter same options on the homepage. For any theme or topic page, it'll also follow a similar structure with the content feed. It's just for any one of those, the content will match the tag. In this case, science and technology. Key forecast questions will similarly match the page that we're on. Shifting to forecasts and scenarios, there are two types. The first is our long form written forecast by our own internal team at RANE. There are the geopolitical forecasts and security forecasts. For the geopolitical forecast, there is a 10-year decade forecast that's updated every 5 years. There is an annual, and then there are quarterly updates, the most recent of which will be featured in the main real estate here. We also produce a quarterly webcast with our analysts where we provide highlights of the key themes that we're discussing, and it's an opportunity to engage and pose questions to our analyst team as well. Clicking on this case, the 2023 fourth quarter geopolitical forecast, all will follow a similar structure, starting with an executive summary, global trends, and then an overview region by region of the key issues, geographic areas that we see dominating that geopolitical landscape, in this case over the next quarter. And there's also the table of contents to help shortcut as well. If we go back, there are also the security forecasts, as I mentioned, for those that have access to the threat intelligence solution. You'll see a similar structure and formatting here. Otherwise, there are also key forecast questions, which is part of the geopolitical intelligence or the worldview enterprise solution. Whereas those long form forecasts that we just looked at lead in with our primary scenario, we internally at RANE are also exploring what are alternative scenarios. If I click on this first one as an example, what will the Korean Peninsula security environment look like by the end of 2027? Whereas in the long form forecast, we would have really focused on this particular scenario. We want to provide a view for our customers of the alternative ways in which these issues can play out to support with their risk mitigation planning, their own particular scenario planning as well. So there's more detail that's available. The outcome, what does that environment look like if this particular scenario comes to fruition? For those that need to monitor these issues, there's indicators and implications. As far as indicators, what are the signposts that indicate that this scenario is becoming more likely? And as far as implications, what are the geopolitical, security, and business implications for organizations with a global footprint? If I go back to the main key forecast question page, note that we're also monitoring these issues closely. So as notable events take place, what we call triggers, we will update you and we'll also provide the context to put this into place and perspective. In some cases, the scenarios will adjust. We'll discuss why. Others, they won't. And we find this to be just as relevant, especially when there's a lot of rhetoric in the news. There may be a notable event, but we're giving the context as to why these scenarios are holding steady, and we update these over time. As far as tools, there are two types. The first is country risk indicators. Now, we looked at what the geopolitical and security outlooks were for China, along with the Global Composite Risk Index. This is the global view, where we're including the risk ratings for all countries, and you can do comparisons. If you have created interest groups, you can filter, cut out the noise, really focus in on the geographic areas that are relevant for your organization. In this case, we're looking at the geopolitical outlook tab, but you can filter by any one of those categories, see how it fluctuates, whether it's in the map view, the list view, and note that you can also export this, include it in your own presentations, assessments, and work products. You can also do side-by-side comparisons if you are looking to assess risk in one country over the other. And for any one of these tabs, particularly the Global Composite Risk Index, note that our methodology here is available in detail to help lend to the veracity and legitimacy of our approach. Lastly, for threat monitoring map, this is part of the threat intelligence solution, is where we'll see all those tactical incidents in a map view. All incidents pull from a variety of open source intelligence, whether that's mainstream to local foreign language periodicals, as well as social media, all of which has been verified Geocoordinates have been applied along with a risk categorization and a taxonomy. What are risk categories? The incident types, the threat level, and the number of casualties. Note that there can be anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 on average incidents per day. So there are many ways in which you can filter this. You can filter by time, specific countries, your interest groups that you've already created, and threat impact. Also, you can create location groups, whether it's locations that have a pinpoint, updating this for test purposes. You can export a CSV file with those geocoordinates. You can add a marker to the map in a very particular geographic area. You can do manual entry. And you can also create geofences and draw the shape so long as those dots start and come back to the same point. That geofence can represent any geographic area of interest. Once those have been built, you can then filter accordingly. So for illustration purposes, filtering by examples of corporate offices, we'll see the red triangles now on the map. And you can choose the proximity of interest, whether it's on the block, the wider city, the general vicinity. And rather than about 1,000 incidents per day that I would have to go through, I know that in this case, there's 59 that I really need to be paying attention to. Otherwise, we can also filter by particular geofences. Mexico border as an example, the Niger Delta area. The geofences we see here on the map. And in this case, there are 5 incidents that are taking place within my geocoordinates of interest. Hopefully you found this to be of interest. Note that if you do have any ongoing questions, don't hesitate to reach out to your account manager or our product team. We're happy to support.